So we have a problem. My backpack was open for I have no idea how long, and my microphone was in the backpack, and now it's not there anymore. So yesterday I ended the episode on a massive downer because I thought I lost my microphone because this guy checked my bag and yeah, said there's nothing in there, but he checked the wrong pocket. Thank goodness the microphone is still in there. I was swearing my head off the entire way home. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy though. The tour goes on.
We're good.
Today's mission is to reach the village of Hunda in the Nubra Valley via Kardungla Pass, one of the highest motorable passes in the world. Feeling energized, I was excited to take to the road.
I got a flat. Alright, here we go. The boys at work. Well, it's good that it sort of happened here. We just had a checkpoint and we're just sitting there waiting for a little bit. That's obviously when the tyre deflated. So luckily it wasn't when I was just hooking it around a corner and, you know, the tyre popped off the rim or something like that, because that would have been disastrous. So as while we're waiting and as I took off, I just felt the back end just whoop, 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 whoop. The crew have left. They're going to meet us at the temple. It's not far from here, so that's fine. Might miss out on a bit of temple action. But Roaming Horizons, man, they got the crew. As soon as that happened, I just pulled over and they just came. They knew straight away, and they just got to work so fast. Incredible work by these guys. And here I am just sitting in the shade. While we're here, the thing I love about tours is that you slowly start modding up all your gear. So what I've done here is I've got the quad lock, but my phone kept going flat because there's no USB port on this Himalaya in particular. So what I did was I ran this charger, and this is a solar power charger. The UVs here are so strong, it'll keep this thing charged. Got that just running into the quad lock wireless charging head. And I downloaded the maps because there's no reception out here whatsoever, and you need to be a local to be able to buy the SIM card. So I downloaded the maps so I know where I'm going, so no more mishaps. And it's just nice to have peace of mind that I have some idea of where I'm going. I know when the hairpins are coming up, and like right now, although I'll be following Anup to the temple, I could get there by myself, you know. So if worst comes to worst, I'm not going to be going up some hill all alone like I did last time. Oh, that was awesome. 10% off everything quad lock if you use my link in the description below. I can't tour without it, you know. I feel naked if I didn't have my quad lock, and I feel very much at home now that it's charging, and I've got Google Maps pumping. I have tunes pumping in my ears. So thank you so much, quad lock, for sponsoring this adventure. I feel very much at ease. Well done, thank you brother, you're the best, thank you so much. Woo! Time to play catch up, my favourite.
Kardungla Pass was once celebrated as the highest motorable pass in the world. It's now been surpassed by Umlingla, which is a little over 19,000 feet, but Kardungla holds its own legendary status. It was part of an ancient trade route where caravans of camels and horses carried goods between Leh and Central Asia. Even today, it's a vital link for suppliers heading to the Siachen Glacier.
What's the skydiving height?
Back home, I think it's around 14,000 to 15, 16. Yeah.
So like we're above there, isn't that mental? 18,000 feet, here we go. Wowzers. Kardungla Pass. Woo, we made it. Woo.
Yeah, the good signs up here.
Yeah, sick.
Here we go, sticks of
Oh yeah. Yeah, I ran out of stickers in the Philippines. Oh well, let's get this photo. You get your photo? Yeah. Nice one, brother. Look at that.
It was a struggle to breathe up there. The kind of thin air that makes every movement feel twice as hard. We were warned not to run, probably to avoid, well, passing out, I guess. And honestly, I could see why. Even walking felt like a workout. But then I started thinking, imagine the people who built these roads and structures right here in the Himalayas, hauling materials, working day after day in these extreme conditions. Those guys must feel like elite athletes when they come down to sea level. I'd lost the group momentarily. Once again, it was just me in the Himalayas. And when I finally caught up, I found myself right in the middle of a full-blown snow battle.
Oh, it's so cold. It's so cold.
The thin air wasn't going to stop this from happening.
Oh no.
Poof, I was out of breath. But it was time to press on through the snow-capped mountains before stopping for lunch. After eating lunch, I went around the back to use the bathroom and I was met with these incredible views of the Himalayas and what we'd just ridden through. And it was here when I realised that this was my first time experiencing snow on a motorcycle. And I was so glad it was in the Himalayas. From here, it was a solid 4-hour ride from the snow to the Himalayan desert. covered some serious ground today, from the snowy ice caps to the Himalayan desert. And feeling well spent, we cleaned up before relaxing by the fire where we learned it was our Spear's birthday.
Today is my birthday.
Happy birthday, brother! Woo! This guy. Thank you. Cheers, brother. That's great.
Happy birthday, Hiran. Thank you for guiding us through the Himalayas safely.
I think I can speak for most of us. Oh, how good is this, man? The truck drivers here are absolute legends. Thanks, brother. Anywho, I think I can speak for most of us when I say that we had a fantastic sleep last night. The beds were firm, but as soon as I laid on it, my back just cracked. It just popped like 8 times. And it's, oh, look at that. The C30. Look at that massive thing taken off. Oh my gosh. I don't know my planes. The C130, C30, I don't know. So I'm feeling good, feeling fresh. So we are on our way to Turtuk, which on Google Maps says is an hour and 44. Hopefully no more punctures. That was my second puncture, by the way. After that massive adventure when we got sort of lost when we got back to camp, my tyre was dead flat and the boys changed it overnight. So I'm being distracted by this absolutely amazing view right now. Look at this.
Turtuk is home to the Balti people and offers a rare chance to experience their unique culture. It's also famous for its lush apricot and walnut orchards, which play a big role in the local economy. Entering the village, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of peace. But unfortunately, not as all as it seems.
Those snowy mountain caps are part of Pakistan. India and Pakistan aren't really friendly, and there's bunkers on top of those mountains. And I think there's bunkers back there as well. They're just fighting over the mountains, which is pretty insane. It's been happening for a very long time.
Turtuk is one of India's northernmost villages, sitting in the Nubra Valley near the line of control with Pakistan. Until 1971, it was part of Pakistan. But after the Indo-Pakistan War that year, the Indian Army reclaimed the village, making it part of India ever since.
See that alloy dish just right there. It focuses all the sun's energy, radiation into the center, and it's hot enough to be able to cook with. That's genius, man. I love that. The donkey in the background. That's awesome, man. This is so good.
We paid a visit to the Balti Heritage House, which is a 140-year-old family-run museum preserving the culture and history of the Balti people. Here they have preserved traditional clothing, handcrafted artifacts, and documents that tell the story of the unique village and its rich heritage.
Not gonna lie, I felt a little bit of claustrophobic in there. Don't know how they did it, but they did it. So the rooms are really small for heating purposes. So we'd get like super cold up here for like months. So they make everything nice and small and cozy to trap all the heat in.
Core rooms are used as natural refrigeration.
It is noticeably colder. It's like the aircon's been turned on. Crazy. Crazy design. How they make it work, hey?
Built with thick stone or mud walls, these rooms stay cool even in the heat. Often underground or partially submerged, they're perfect for storing food, keeping it fresh without modern refrigeration. The Bunker of Memories in Turtuk is a small museum dedicated to preserving the village's history, especially its time under Pakistani control before 1971.
These are the shells that fell on this tiny little village from Pakistan. Pretty crazy.
It showcases photographs, letters, and artifacts from the era, offering a glimpse into the struggles and resilience of the locals during the Indo-Pakistani War. Border conflict isn't a thing back home in Australia, so seeing this was all foreign to me, and it was quite an eye-opener.
You did a better job than me. How's that for ASMR? That's amazing. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, mate.
We took the same route on the way back home. This felt different. The light changed the patterns throughout the Himalayas. And suddenly, I felt like I was on a different planet.